Hi, welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 15, The Tunnels Below.
Yes.
A long episode.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch it all the way through until show prep. I tried watching it live Thursday night and fell asleep. And tried having it out at work. And yeah, it didn't work out. And a lot of the stuff that I was talking with people, or engaging with people on Twitter about, happened mostly in the first half an hour of the episode. Namely, Orem, Fern, and Laudna and Imogen sleep pile.
Yeah. Like a miniature Hugh Hefner going on there with Orem.
I don't think he relished the idea of that at all. And I don't think Imogen, like Laura was laughing her ass off.
Yeah.
But some of her in-character reactions as Imogen, she was not enjoying the idea of that. Yes, Rose. Yes, there's a whole genre of anime. Yeah, and I don't know if he was just scratched, but it was an oddly timed scratch. When Liam, he's like, Orm's just thinking about himself and all these giant women, and he does this, and I don't know if he was just scratching there or if he was miming the bloody nose trope. I don't know.
Oh.
But like, all I could think about was how horrible it would be for Imogen. Because I don't think she'd be able to get sleep surrounded by that many minds that close. Yeah. Plus, I mean, I kind of, on one hand, I hope it does happen because I kind of want to have whoever's with her to share the dream that she has. I think that would be an interesting thing to happen.
Yeah.
But we see that Lord Estros is stealthy.
Yeah. Very sneaky.
Yeah. I think he's definitely got rogue levels.
Yeah.
And probably expertise in stealth.
Yeah. And Ashton finds his sword and shield under the table.
Yeah. Yeah. They spend quite a while, to my mind, reviewing their successes of the evening.
Yeah, the debrief.
And the information that they gathered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that, for me, put this episode sort of on the wrong footing.
Mm-hmm. Too much recap.
Yeah. Again, a lot of the gems of the episode are in during that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It just felt like they hadn't played in a while.
Yeah.
And they were getting back together, and everyone's trying to remember what happened.
I mean, that can happen, even when you just don't play for a week.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too. When I was thinking about bringing up the fact that everyone's the review part of the episode was such a big chunk of it. I was like, yeah, but there are times in your sessions when it's half hour, 40 minutes of review and debate about what actually happened. So yeah, I mean, we watch because it's D&D.
Yeah.
And it was D&D.
And that's part of D&D sometimes.
Yeah. FCG disposes of the evidence
Yes.
of their theft.
After we find out that the ring is not magical.
Yeah, well, confirmation.
Yeah.
Because we kind of assumed it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Just because that is the wrong thing to take if it is. Because he's going to know it's not there. And Ashton is disappointed in himself that he never thought to
use FCG to dispose of evidence.
Yeah.
The interesting part for me was the revelation that FCG hates birds.
Yeah.
And talks about...
In the words of Travis, whoop, whoop.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that caught me with it. Chetney's questioning him, and questioning him, and questioning him. And when he first says that he doesn't like birds, Taliesin goes, "Oh, we're going there, are we?" So Taliesin knows this part about Sam's backstory.
Well, he knows of the dislike of birds. I don't think he knows why.
I think he does, because while Chetney's questioning him, he goes, "We're all going to die now," which leads credence to the theory out there that FCG killed all his party members. His original party members. Chetney's bugging him. What if he snaps?
You don't think that was just Taliesin feeding into Sam? I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. My big thing in the recap is they finally ask the question, what shape are the spires coming out of the ground in? Does it look like it could be a hand?
Yeah. Is this another Titan for Vecna to raise?
Yeah. Yeah. And the Lord Esteros and them coming to the same conclusion. They need to get out of town.
Yeah.
But so the reason I think FCG hates birds is because he played host to generations of them. And I think when Dancer found him or fixed him, he was still taking guano out.
I don't think it's anything that simple.
See, and my brain went to Laputa. The robots in Laputa, like the one that they find, is like taking care of a bird's nest. And is sort of happy to serve as their roost. And I could see Sam flipping that on its head and hating the birds. Because sort of like, how do the statues feel about all the pigeons on them? Like, how would they feel?
Yeah.
Because we don't know how conscious or unconscious the Aor Matanza were.
Yeah.
Or if, like, most of them may be largely unconscious, but he may have been slightly aware of his surroundings. Because that's the only thing that I can think of.
For me, if it was from before he got fixed like that, he wouldn't have it because when he tried to recall memories from before that, he went into the glitch mode.
Yeah, but a dislike is not necessarily accessing memories or answering questions. I don't know. But and that's why I say his hatred of birds isn't necessarily connected to his origins, but merely how Dancer found him.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think so.
Bastion, the robot from Overwatch, with a little bird pet. Oh. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
But there again, that would be going against type, because that's a pet of the robot. And thus far, we haven't seen him hate on the notion of pets.
Yeah.
Thus far.
Yeah.
So, it's not pets that he's against, birds. And this may be, and this is another thing. Was that already in his backstory?
Yes.
Or was that something?
Because a couple of people pointed out online that if you go back and watch the different times they've mentioned birds, there's been a couple of times and they're all making the noises. Sam in character would get anxious and angry and look up at the sky. So there's been something that's been in his backstory, and he's been dropping his hints, his reactionary hints that people only catch in hindsight.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely was in his backstory.
Right on. The last thing in my notes for this section is Sam makes the joke about man-made spires, and then goes off on the creationist and flat Exandria and making all those jokes. And Taliesin and Matt are like, no, the gods exist. You can talk to them. They can talk to you.
Yeah.
They did create everything. In D&D worlds, it's definitely creationist.
Yeah.
Evolution is not necessarily a thing on most D&D worlds. Unless you want to sort of... I guess the closest you would get would be the notion that the gods guide evolution. Or the gods are
put
just...
it into place.
Yeah, they're the prime mover and then step back. Yeah. And then, well, this is a tangent, but there was a paper published recently about the idea that can planets become intelligent? And sort of the self-correcting mechanisms, and how, in theory, if an industrial society can find a balance, or the planet will find a balance with that industrial society, with producing all of the artificial chemicals, then that may express a level of planetary intelligence.
Gotcha.
Like I said, it's a tangent. It has nothing to do with anything, except that it's a paper that was published recently, and in the last week I watched a video on it.
There you go.
But they leave Esteros.
Yep.
And not necessarily fail their stealth check, but
don't succeed.
Yeah. Because I was like, well, no, a couple of those were really good. Because I think they had two of them were borderline.
Yeah.
14 or 15, something like that. And then in retrospect, I started thinking, I was like, oh, wait, no, Matt said these guys are investigators, high intelligence and wisdom. No, those 14s were not going to.
Yeah, no.
But they're waylaid by
The Green Seekers.
the Green Seekers. Was that scene as painful for you as it was for me?
I spent most of the scene trying to decide whether they were a parody of X-Files or a parody of Supernatural.
Oh. I'm leaning towards X-Files.
Okay.
Just because the gnome would be Scully.
Yeah. That's it.
I did not think of that. My pain in that scene came from the fact that I could just see, with every response from the players, I could just see Matt's inner soul beginning to crumble and crack. Matt usually tries to keep a good poker face.
Yeah.
And just every time they would dance around the truth or try to dissemble, I could, like, Matt straight up said, like, reiterated to them in dialogue, where to show them that these are good people, that they're not in it for the money, when he's like, you know, if we find out whoever hired us is responsible, we take them in, because it's the right thing to do. That was Matt taking the players by the throat, shaking them vigorously, and telling them, these are allies.
Yeah.
You can trust them.
Yeah.
It was so painful for me to watch. I was just like, which leads into Matt padding his reel, playing both sides.
Yeah.
Of the scene.
Of the awkward X scene.
Yeah. I don't know. Because I've had moments like that in the game where I'll say, like, the first couple lines, and I'll narrate, you know, the subtle body language that those with high insight notice.
Yeah.
And then the rest I just skip over.
Yeah.
And I was struggling with why Matt played the whole thing out long form. Because Matt will also hand wave conversations that he's having with himself when multiple NPCs are all talking. He gives the gist of what's being said amongst everybody.
Yeah.
Because it just gets very awkward, and to, like, run that out. And ultimately, what's important is the gist.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm wondering if there was some potential nugget there.
Possibly.
That is material to anything.
My issue with that scene is that's not how therapy works. You don't do it on non-neutral ground.
No.
Yeah, at least ask all these random strangers to leave first before you get into it with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Again, D&D can be therapy, but don't make your fellow players your therapist.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Rose,
Yeah.
I mean, Liam certainly seemed to appreciate it, as he commented later. That they just spent 20 minutes watching him play off himself.
Well, yeah. And Laura and Ashley were obviously super excited when they realized, wait, this is an X? Travis too. But
Yeah. And to me, like, in my brain, I question why Gus, is that right?
Yep. Gus and Ollie are the Green Seekers.
Why Gus even let them come in with him.
Yep.
Because if I am in that situation and hints are already being thrown at me that this is going to be a tense conversation with my ex, I don't want the people that I have shanghaied, manipulated, strong-armed, whatever term, into helping me with my investigation. They don't need to be seeing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rose, it certainly went to humanizing them.
Yeah.
For the party, for sure. And I think part of it is it Journey into the Neverdeep?
Call of the Neverdeep.
Call of the Neverdeep. That adventure has another adventuring party.
Yes, rival adventuring party.
You can either be rivals, friends, or enemies.
Yeah.
With. And each one of those members of the party have, in-depth motivations and everything, and ways that the players can connect, manipulate, whatever, however, with those NPCs. And I think Matt is trying to give an example of how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I can see that.
That's the biggest... That's the main thing I can sort of wrap my head around.
For me, the conversation happened because it was how they get to the mines. And I know I personally don't like it when the DM is like, so the NPC that you just met goes in and he cleared. It's like, okay, that's just, them
feels
being
too
there. Railroady, GM Fiat, You're not the characters.
Gotcha.
You're there to support my characters and my story.
Interesting.
And letting them be there and and they took part in the sense of the therapy, but it allowed them to help negotiate the entrance to the mine so that the players are still the ones doing stuff.
Okay. No, I buy that. Interesting. Yeah. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective. But yeah, no, it's fair. And Fern chooses violence, continuing to be the agent of chaos.
Fern's gonna Fern.
Yeah. But yeah, they get taken to the foreman of the mine. And Laudna terrifies him again into unconsciousness.
Yes.
She's going to kill someone by scaring them to death one day. Even though, as I was thinking about that, I don't think there's a spell that inflicts damage and the frightened condition.
That's true. I don't think there is.
Like, there's things that imply that they are frightened, like dissonant whispers where they have to run away.
Yeah.
But they don't get the condition frightened. So I was like, design space.
There we go.
So yeah. I was trying to decide if Matt was trying to paint this guy as like Dunder Mifflin, Steve Carell's character.
Oh, Michael Scott.
Yeah. Because
you know, I really got more of a Michelle Pfeiffer's cat, Selena Kyle, from Batman Returns. Michael Keaton Dane, like the Selena Kyle part, not the Catwoman part. The artistic on her own, scared into unconsciousness fairly easily.
oh well, yeah, I guess. Okay, yeah. You put it like that. Okay, yeah, I see it now. Yeah. But they laugh at his artistic endeavors, and
I guess that's a nice way of saying it.
poke fun at everyone who has published on Amazon on-demand printing. While it's doing so, and then during the interrogation, Laudna belittles him for crying after they dislocate his fingers.
Well, I mean, when your body dislocates all the time, you kind of don't have sympathy for people who don't.
I didn't think about it that way.
I mean, coming from a guy who has almost no cartilage in his joints don't dislocate very, it's not hard to dislocate my joints. I kind of just put it back in and move on, get over it, I do it all the time. So I'm kind of feeling Wanda right there.
I had not considered it from that angle. That's much funnier. Yeah, no, that's legit. We get evidence via detect thoughts, called for in stereo by the two people who can cast it. It really is just a shortcut investigative tool.
It's a great tool.
Yeah. He's getting paid off by the Treshies to keep the mine closed. And they force him to give them access to the mine.
Yep.
And so much of this mine delving expedition reminded me of Fallout 2.
Okay.
There's a mission in one of the villages that you go to. It's the village that you can recruit the super mutant that's voiced by Michael Dorn. But the mine's shut down because there's aliens in it. And you can go down and fight the aliens. And they're drawn to evoke the xenomorph without being called xenomorphs. And we even got some of the cast quoting Alien.
Yeah.
In the episode. So sort of, the same line. The second major misstep that slowed the all but brought it to a grinding halt, the momentum, was not having the minis at the table. And I was just like, oh, I'm so happy I used my little cardboard tokens. Because they can be anything.
Yeah, but there's definitely been times where we've come to a halt looking for the right ones that are needed there too.
Sure. Fair. And Sam's comment about, it took them 10 minutes to roll initiative.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I think Sam isn't paying any attention, and other times he makes those kind of comments.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, okay. No, he's at least on it tonight. And occasionally, when he's been the one to keep everyone on track. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's keeping his quest list.
Yeah.
This time around, so that he can get everyone back on track.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I appreciated that from Sam. They have a new monster introduced, or perhaps the final evolution of one that they fought before.
Yeah.
Because Duggar did that globular spit thing, and these things did too.
Yeah.
The larger shade creepers. Do you think these will be in the next source book, or do you? Because I
think they will be, unless they play a specific role in Call of the Netherdeep, they will be in the Marquette Handbook when it comes out.
And yeah, I fell asleep before the fight started.
Okay.
And then I woke up during the rebroadcast Thursday night, Friday morning, when the fight was going on.
Okay.
And so I caught some of it, because it's like, oh wait, no, I missed this part. And then, of course, I'm half asleep, so I fell back to sleep and missed the end of it. But yeah.
Yeah, we had a reskin Hunger of Hadar.
Oh, an Imogen spell.
Imogen Storm spell. They get that as one of their bonus spells of the Aberrant Mind, and it was reflavored to
Lightning and
Force. From
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was the part. Yeah, that was basically the part that I woke up in.
Yeah.
In my half asleep state, I was like, wait, what? What the hell spell is that? What?
Yeah, it's a reskinned Hunger of Hadar.
Oh. And see, I thought, because, I was like, that sounds like Hunger of Hadar, but that's acid and cold.
Yep.
Gotcha. Interesting.
I found it interesting they reflavored it to Lightning and Force. Like, the Lightning I get, but why Force? I would have either done Thunder for the Storm or Psychic for her mental abilities rather than Force.
Yeah, and Force makes it a more powerful spell.
Yeah.
Because nothing really is resistant to Force damage.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Other than Force tends to be the go-to
for magic, yeah. For non-script magic, yeah.
Yeah.
I initially thought Thunder because Lightning Thunder for the Storm, and plus it's another common damage type.
Yeah.
One of the core,
one of the core elemental damages.
And then I was like, well, maybe Psychic, a little rarer, but fits with the Imogen character.
Yeah. And maybe it was just to change up her damage types.
Yeah.
Because if she's doing all psychic damage, things that are immune, she's going to be totally useless against.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I liked that Chetney and Orem were sort of off on their own, holding down one lane for a while. And I liked Chetney calling attention to it and sort of, how we get stuck over here kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just sort of like the way.
Well, when the
Rose Short King duo. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, when the two small characters are also the two martial characters. I mean, an Order of Lycan Blood Hunter and a Battlemaster Fighter can go pretty far together.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were moments of it where I was brought to mind Bo and Yasha.
Mm-hmm.
When they would end up together in a place. Although more often than not, they separated.
Yeah.
After the initial sort of, oh wait, Sentinel doesn't proc with both of us.
Yeah.
Having it. So they tended to open up a little more after that.
That's why you have one Sentinel and one either Samurai or Oath of Ancients Barbarian.
Yeah. Or Cavalier.
Cavalier. That's right. Cavalier, not Samurai.
Yeah. So good. Ashton getting the hose again. He wasn't very happy with his rage effect again.
Yeah. I really want to see those two subclasses. Like the full written out.
Yeah.
For Ashton and FCG.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of stuff will start making more sense because we're still just kind of we know some basics, but it may make more sense when we see the whole subclass,
Yeah, well, and FCG inducing healer envy in Jester and Caduceus.
Yes.
Drop an aura of vitality.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Such a good spell.
Paladin and
yeah.
It being a paladin spell. And my current character being a paladin sorcerer, when I get meta magic, if I get that spell and extend it.
40 d6 of healing.
It works.
Who needs prayer of healing?
Right?
Yeah, take your 10 minutes to cast that spell that heals. What is it, 2d8? Or 2d6, something like that?
2d8, I think.
To up to 6 creatures, I think.
Yeah.
And I'll just Aura of Vitality this for 2 minutes.
The whole time you're casting.
I'll just heal everybody.
Okay, it's done, and it was pointless.
Yeah.
Oh, commentary on thoughts and prayers. Moving on.
I'm surprised. Do you think the next time he casts that, we'll see it in combat, in the middle of combat?
I could see him doing that.
Just because it allows him, on his turn, to just hand out the healing.
Yeah.
Has he cast Sanctuary before?
I don't think so.
Because that would be super potent.
Sanctuary, not concentration?
It is not.
Ooh.
Sanctuary lasts a minute.
Drop Sanctuary, cast that. I'm going to heal these people. I don't give a shit about your aggro.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. So we'll see if Sam does that ever.
Yeah.
But now that it's possible, that's all I'm going to be thinking about is him doing that. Because, I mean, right now they're in the tier where that kind of healing will keep the party going.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be facing enemies that are going to be doing much more than that.
Yeah.
In the later tiers, it becomes less potent. But you're healing more than a second level healing word every turn.
Yeah.
With that spell. And if you got Sanctuary on you, you can be doing other things with your action, like casting other heal spells.
Mm-hmm. Or attack spells.
Well, if you attack, Sanctuary goes away.
Oh, yeah.
So he can cast other healing spells. He can cast other buff spells. He can do the help action.
Control.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, Rose, that's so mean. Oh, that's so mean. And yet also true.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, she points out that I could look forward to it the way Yasha reses without material components.
Yeah.
That was
Sorry, buddy.
one chance. They could have done it. Oh well. I'm trying to. Well, it's fine.
Don't be sorry. I wish I had thought of it.
We do get the typical player tunnel vision though.
Yeah.
When it comes to healing, where they ignore the NPC party members.
Yep.
In the healing, which I thought was funny. Sam trying to take it back. No. You said it. It's done.
To be fair, I think people get that tunnel vision because personally, I don't tend to do that. And every time I heal NPCs, I get this, oh sure, waste the spell slot on NPCs.
That is the other side of that coin, yes. Yes.
I mean, it happened just a couple weeks ago here.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So,
yeah.
It's a fine line.
It's true.
Whether you save it for the PCs or be the good guy and heal others for roleplay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But they drive off. They kill or drive off the Shade Creepers. And Chetney goes invisible to Scout. And while he is scouting, sees the birth, as it were, of Lady Emoth. Because I do this because Matt was hinting like hell.
Yeah. That
there were a bunch of piles of clothes, belongings, and bones.
Yeah, no. These are, the things taking over the things they killed. The lives of,
So, I was just like, oh man. Here we go. But he goes back, and Matt indicates that she smells him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he runs back, tells everyone what he saw. We can go get him if we want. They go in. She's not in the chamber that he saw her in.
Yep.
And it is basically empty. So they move on to the next chamber. And within is a massive
60-foot.
I was going to say flesh temple. but that's not exactly right either. But a fleshy mass on the wall. And when he was describing it, I was like, it's very reminiscent of Molly.
Yeah.
Like Molly, when he was
the whole Cognos.
The Nonagon, when he was attached.
Yeah.
To the city. And so I was like, oh, is this perhaps a point in the favor that Imogen is somehow connected to that? If that's coming back in this way?
Yeah.
But you actually identified the monster.
Yeah. My brain was just like, that's an Ooblex. That's an Ooblex. There are, the larger ones can get bigger than that. I'm not 99% sure, I didn't look up the book, that there's a picture of one with the 4 arms like was described.
And they copy the people that they kill.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm positive we've got an Ooblex, the Imant Ked, 2 workers that are compiling things at the benches, and whatever shade creepers they summon to fight.
Did you... Because speaking of the workers, I thought his description of them was very reminiscent of the Nightmare King.
Vaguely, yeah.
Because he's described them as sort of being hunched over, and long-limbed. So I was like, oh, so we get this giant fleshy beast and the Nightmare King. Fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's got more to do with like the Far Realms. A lot of things in the Far Realms have overextended limbs.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, it's been a minute since I read up that the Ooblexes are from the Far Realms in origin, I believe.
I think that's right.
So.
Yeah, most of the body snatcher monsters
are
tend to fall into that category.
And I mean, a lot of psychic powers fall into the umbrella of being touched by the Far Realms, which could still tie Imogen to this.
Yeah.
So.
Makes me wonder if we're going to see some sort of psychic subclass from Matt.
That would be interesting.
But yeah, they're going into this fight not terribly depleted.
Yeah.
Did they talk about what the resources that they had expended? Or am I...
No, they did.
Okay.
Laudna still has her Form of Dread in all her spell slots. So I think 2 of them.
2.
Yeah. Because she's only been casting him. Imogen has 5 spell slots left. Don't know what levels. FCG has wasted about half of his spell slots. Because he said he's at about half.
They're topped up on health.
Yeah.
So, except for the NPCs. The NPCs are down like a third and...
a quarter to a third.
Yeah.
Yeah. Each. I think Fern has most of her spell slots.
Yeah, because she was just using Mister and... or no, she was casting Flame Strike.
Oh, that's right. So she's down some.
I think she's down all of her 2nd level spell. But in theory, she still has Mister.
She still has Mister. She still has another use of wild shape.
Yeah.
Chetney still has his wolf out form.
Yeah. Orm is out all of his superiority dice, or has one left.
I think he has one left.
So he's going to. I think Liam's going to struggle with feeling useless.
Yeah.
Just because it gets real easy being the fighter.
Yeah.
And just blowing all those dice every turn.
Yeah.
I
believe he still has his action search, though.
I think so.
So that'll help.
So yeah. Rose asked an interesting question: how Lady Emoth ended up getting killed by the Ooblex. Either she's a servant, she has always been a servant of House Treshy, or she was an agent against House Treshy but had infiltrated.
Yeah.
And Armand, and through her infiltration, she got wind of what's going on. She went down to investigate, got.
Yeah.
But
well, I have a feeling these shade creepers are using these tunnels and stuff going up and taking people. Because the Ooblex just has to absorb them.
Yeah.
So they're taking people, kidnapping them, or taking them down to be consumed.
So you think that it doesn't even have to necessarily be that? They could have just gone into her house and gotten her?
I mean, I think it's more than likely that she's been an agent of House Treshy and was a sacrifice.
And that's the other.
Duped by House Treshy into being a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Her specifically. But I think a lot of these remains that we're seeing, because if you remember the pre-stream one shot early to get their characters, we know Laudna and Imogen fought these things that came up into their...
Not the ones with weird eyes.
No.
They seem to have fought the regular.
The smaller, yeah. But they're infiltrating things. They're infiltrating everywhere. I think a lot of those remains are things that were just kidnapped and brought to her because they're replacing townsfolk.
Yeah. And there's definitely, well, no, I can't say definitely. We don't have absolute proof that Armand knows that she is
what she is.
But it would seem like, to me, it would make sense that he did.
Yeah. It's like Secret Invasion. The Skrulls didn't just replace superheroes and politicians; they replaced normal people too.
Yeah.
Because then you've also got normal people swaying the vote, speaking up.
Yeah. Duggar was working for the Treshies as a mason. It is theoretically possible that the Oubliettes also replaced Dorian's brother.
Yeah, because he was working for Cade.
Yep.
Well, that might be what EXU 2-part special is about.
Yeah. Yeah, Rose, I also was surprised about that. And part of me thinks it's a little hand wavy
Yeah. Well,
of Matt to not bring that up.
Matt made a comment when they first realized who Gus and Ollie were, and it was like, they were just far enough behind you that they missed Dorian and Cyrus, but they caught you when you were leaving.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's possible that they think hang around with these folks and we can press them for information. And maybe that's where that conversation was going to go.
Yeah.
Until they started mentioning the Shade Creepers, the Uzi people, and stuff like that. And we also still don't know who hired them.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it was Ajit.
Mm. Yeah.
Ajit is a member of a faction that is involved in hunting down extraplanar and undead and evil things. This is right up their alley. And if they abandoned Cyrus and Dorian to do this and press gang them into it, that tends to make me think that that's who they're working for.
Very well could be.
And that also gives Chetney a means of introduction to Ajit without having to rely on Estros.
Yep.
Which I was wondering how he was going to do that. Because he asked Estros about Ajit at the beginning of the episode.
Yep.
But if these guys are working with Ajit and having them sacrifice themselves so that Bell's Hells can get away.
Yes. Which is 100% official. They trademarked it on March 1st. Bell's Hells. The name was trademarked by Critical Role on March 1st. So now we just need the merch to appear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to make them understand that you can't just claim allegiance to the Hells without some kind of repercussions happening to you.
Now my question is, they're Bell's Hells. Is each one supposed to be representative of a different layer of hell of the Hells? And if so, which one is which?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to put some thought into that one. That's not what I'm ready to answer right here and now, but just,
Same.
All right.
Speaking of my disappointments racking up, yeah.
Rose is just hitting you left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a rough fight.
Yeah, it is. The Oubliex is not a pushover monster.
Yeah. I think he is vulnerable to lightning.
It has some vulnerabilities that they can definitely exploit.
So
again, it's been a minute since I've looked at them.
I think I looked at it when the book first came out and I was like, oh, that's cool.
I've looked at them a couple of times, but I'm honestly in the middle of rearranging stuff and not sure where my book is right now, so I couldn't grab it to look them up.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll see what happens this Thursday.
Yep.
Next Tuesday will be an hour earlier because of daylight savings time.
Yep.
Which you all recognize and will suffer for. We do not necessarily suffer for it here, except that we miss appointments across time zones.
Yeah.
Because of it. Anyway, until then, take care of yourselves and each other.
Yes.